What's going on, everybody? Hope y'all are having a blessed start to your week. And today we're going to be going over pension, Social Security, and VA benefits. So Gabe, spit your sauce. Give us the knowledge.
So I want to give just a little story so people understand why this is so important. When I was 17, my grandfather passed away. He was a World War II veteran. Had a lot of benefits. You know, he was receiving benefits from the VA. He had worked for a union for years and was receiving a union pension. And of course, he was also getting Social Security, and lived with my grandmother in Marion, Ohio, had a property there that they had lived on for many years. And the first thing that hit us is he was under the impression, I don't know why he thought this, that the VA was going to pay for his funeral. That was the first thing my family found out that wasn't true. Like, well, I think they gave us like $700 months later after we'd already paid for the funeral, which was, I think, like $17,000 or something like that. But the bigger shock was that he thought, just assumed, I don't know why, that my grandmother was going to receive all of his benefits when he passed away. And she received a small fraction. And very soon, the home got sold and everything had to be kind of, done away with. And it was a tragic situation. And I think as someone who raised a family, obviously served in the military during a time for that to be kind of what became a little bit of his legacy is a real tragedy. And when I think about the reasons why that happened, I mean, it's not confusing. We've talked about it before. So few people even know what their budget is month to month. What percentage of people know what their financial situation is going to be for their loved one after they pass away? You know, very, very few people. And it's a difficult conversation, especially for senior citizens, right? Because like the closer you get to the end of your life, I mean, when people start getting in their 60s and 70s, and he was in his late 80s, I mean, you don't want to talk about passing away because that's right around the corner.
Yeah, you don't want to think about it. You want to talk about it, and you just want to think it's going to be okay.
Yeah,
so and it's easy to a buddy told you, or this person told you, or this is what you think, or whatever else, and no, the VA is going to pay off my entire home.
Yeah,
it's going to be all right. It's going to be all good.
Yeah, how many times have we heard that? And when it comes to what we do for our clients, I really believe it's maybe the most important service we provide outside of giving them actual life insurance is helping people get a picture for what life is going to be like for their loved ones so they can plan accordingly.
Yes.
Because if my family had that, things would have probably gone much more differently for my family and my grandmother.
Yeah.
And so I want to hop on, give a quick breakdown, just kind of a path for agents to follow when you're talking to your clients. And it's also, I mean, beyond the service, which of course is our number one. I mean, if you apply this, it's going to make you a ton of money because people don't change their minds. They make new decisions based off new information. Correct. So if Bob and Mary, who are making 10 grand a month, thought that Mary was going to get that 10 grand a month when he passes away, buying mortgage protection from Gabe is like, if it's easy, if it's convenient, if we can get the whole $300,000 loan for less than $100 a month, maybe we'll do it. But when Bob and Mary finds out that, hey, Mary's only going to get $2,500 of that 10 grand that's coming in, and the mortgage is $3,000, we're having a different conversation. Because now it's not like, oh, if this is convenient, it's, oh, we need to do something. We have to do something, or she's going to lose this home. And that puts the agent in a way superior position to help that client. So going through it first, VA benefits. So a lot of times you're going to run into VA benefits for retirees. And unfortunately, it's pretty easy to calculate what the survivorship is going to be. Because if the surviving spouse is not going to be in a assisted living situation, or they don't have kids under the age of 24 at home, they're going to receive none of that benefit. Now, there is a widower's benefit that they can opt into. I actually have a friend of mine going through that process right now. She's a little over a year in. So it's a long process. It's not going to be based off of what I actually called the VA myself, asking these kind of questions like my grandpa, it was a hypothetical because I just heard so many things from clients like, hey, my grandpa is receiving this much. How will my grandma get? And they're like, dude, there's no way to know until after he passes away and his wife goes through that situation, and like they decide, you know, what she should be getting. And so you don't want to bank on that at all. Private pension. So let's say they were part of a union, maybe they were a state employee. That can change depending on who's managing it, but a pretty safe bet for a lot of pensions. And I think if you're an agent out there and you've run into, you know, the widow after, you know, her spouse has passed away and she's getting it, you've probably noticed, usually she's getting like a couple $100. Mm-hmm. And you're like, well, this can't have been the original pension. Mm-hmm. Like it was thousands of dollars and this is all she got of it. So usually there's almost no survivorship. They'll often give an option to the people retiring. It'll kind of look like this. It'll be like, Jonah, so you can get $5,000 a month for the rest of your life. And when you pass away, there's not going to be any survivorship. You know, your spouse won't get any of this. Or you can get $3,000 a month and she can receive half of it when you pass away. I think if you're out there, you're probably not confused on the option that most people pick. They pick the
99% of the time.
Yeah,
they pick the full option.
They pick the big one. A lot of times on private pensions, people will know that their spouse won't get any if you actually kind of challenge it.
Let's put that in a hypothetical, because
Okay.
we've all ran into clients where they're going through the financial inventory and they're like, my wife will be fine. She's going to get my full pension when I pass away. Mm-hmm. What are you telling to that client when he says that?
Dude, I'm glad you asked that question. So the first thing, when I see all those benefits, I ask the client what I think is a money question. That if you're an agent out there and you're not asking, you need to ask this. I ask, has anyone ever walked you through your survivorship? People usually look at me with like a blank stare on their face when I ask that question. And usually the responses are one of two things, either no or what is that? And I'll be like, well, your survivorship, obviously you're going to be receiving those retirement benefits your entire life. You know, as long as Social Security and VA and your pension is still around, you're going to keep receiving them. But when you pass away, your spouse is only going to get a portion of those benefits. And that's what your survivorship is. Has anyone ever broke that down for you? And if I had to put like words to the expression that people give, or even like the way their voice sounds, it's almost like it's a mix between anticipation and a little bit of fear, because they know that they don't know.
Yeah.
And they know that it doesn't make sense, that they probably wouldn't be getting all of it. But they are scared to know what the truth is, because they know it's probably not good. Mm-hmm. It's like I used to work at this furniture resale shop, and there was a fella there who his father had passed away of liver cancer, and he was starting to have all these liver pains, and he didn't want to go to the hospital. And he would say that. We'd be like, dude, you should go to the hospital. Like, he'd have serious symptoms. He's like, no, I don't want to get bad news. And you'd be like, dude, well, if the news is bad, like you going there or not is going to change anything other than you could start getting treatment. And I think some people have to take that same kind of head in the sand mentality towards their survivorship.
You also think about the psychology of the type of client we deal with, where the people we're calling on a daily basis, it's a very sensitive demographic of America, where less than 1% of people fill out forms to send them back. So we're, because for you or me, if we need something done or we have an issue or we have a need, we just go do it, Google it, find somebody, whatever, make a call, get it done. Like the type of clients we're talking to, they filled out a form, they sent it into a complete stranger. So it's a very sensitive demographic of Americans we're speaking with, where they are professional procrastinators. Yeah. And most of the time they've waited their entire life to get their life insurance set up. Yeah. So it naturally makes sense that, they don't want to think about the fact of like, what happens when I pass away? What is going to happen with my pension? What are the VA benefits? What's my Social Security? All these different questions. So really educating ourselves and being knowledgeable about this is critical towards properly helping and serving these families.
That's a great point, dude. And the psychology of a lead is they know they need something.
Yep.
They know they need something, but they're not 100% sure what it is. They need somebody to paint the picture. And so that's what you're doing when you're going through this with the client. So private pension, usually the way I ask that, getting into it, I'll be like, so Jonah, what we see a lot of times is there's no survivorship on pensions. Sometimes it's like 50% if you received a reduced amount up front. Do you know what you did? And so I think asking that is setting up the right expectation, because sometimes they can work differently. I've had clients who just like really strong, like, oh no, I accept a reduced amount, she gets the whole thing for a year. Or, they're like, oh no, she gets 50% or they'll say something really specific, 40%, 30%. And then, it's like, okay, if you're setting them up that way and they are answering with specifics like that, usually I feel confident going by what they're saying.
But that's rare.
Yeah.
And most of the time.
It really is.
Most of the time they don't remember.
Yeah.
And if they don't remember, that means, well, there's a 99.99% chance that you took the full thing.
Yeah.
More than likely you took the full thing.
Yeah.
And approaching it that way.
There's been a handful of times that it was just really important to the appointment that I called with the client, to whoever manages their benefits. And I think every time I've actually called, there's actually been like virtually nothing. Like I remember one time in particular, someone was receiving like $7,000, like a huge pension, and the survivorship was like $400 or something on it. And then there's, of course, Social Security. Now, Social Security is one of the most common that you're going to run into. Rules change, so you kind of keep track on it every year. It's going to be based off of course, the age of the person who passed away, the person who's receiving it, maxes for what they can receive in their state. So there's a lot of things that can factor in. But to make it simple, what you're going to see it work out to is the surviving spouse will continue to receive their full amount and receive half of the spouse who passed away. And so working through those metrics with a client, I mean, dude, it's so powerful in an appointment. Because I mean, I can't tell you how many times I'm sat with somebody, a phenomenal income, and they just think like, oh, we're good. This is their retirement income. We work for this. And then they see that survivorship and they realize, wow, we need to make some strong moves here. Like sometimes it's like, dude, they're already buying. They just need to know, they just need some direction.
Yeah. I mean, I've walked into homes, I'm sure you have too, where I've had situations where they told me on the phone when I booked the appointment at the beginning, they didn't need it. But then we laid out how the Social Security worked, and they realized, oh, wow, so my wife actually isn't getting my full Social Security at the end. And it went from not needing it to turning into covering the entire mortgage, stacking 6 whole life policies together, and it was a 10K sale.
Yeah.
You know, the whole dynamic shifted of exactly what you said.
Yeah, dude.
So really knowing these 3 VA benefits, pension benefits, and Social Security benefits is essential for helping clients and helping families.
And just talking it through with them. Just asking the question, has anyone ever walked you through your survivorship? Is a money question.
Boom. Well, Gabe, appreciate you hopping on and going over this.
Appreciate you, bro.